Scheduled by the board. A work session is one where we don't make any formal decisions. It's just for us to meet and talk to people. And this meeting was called specifically to be an informational meeting to the taxpayers. On the 28th of last month, we submitted to the county ballot language for ballot measure, asking for a mill levy increase. We did that for two reasons. One is because of the rapid growth that the district is having, and the financial need to get the district a little bit better up to speed to manage that growth. And the other one is because of the Gallagher Amendment. We've got a presentation the chief will give tonight on what the Gallagher Amendment is and how that affects rural fire districts. But it caused our budget to drop a big piece last year. Some of the growth that we had kind of helped us make up for that. But the state is forecasting that that's going to cause the residential assessment rate to drop again next year pretty significantly, which is going to cause another big cut to our budget that we can't recover from without some assistance. Because that ballot language has been submitted, we're not here tonight to tell you whether to vote for it or against it. We can't make those recommendations at this point. We're just here to answer questions for you, explain to you why we did it, what our financial situation is, and answer any other questions that you may have for us. So I will turn it over to Chief Jack for his presentation.
Thanks, Rick. Good morning. First, I'm Brian. I'm your fire chief. I know we had a couple of folks walk in a little late. Restrooms right out the door. There's water in the fridge out there and coffee down the hallway. First off, I would like to thank everyone for attending tonight. We did this about a month ago, a little over a month ago, before flyers went out, and set up all the chairs. We had one person and the news media in the corner. So thank you for coming tonight and showing interest in your fire department.
On the Front Range, forced budget cuts in every corner of Colorado. This video explains why. In 1982, voters passed the Gallagher Amendment to the Constitution. This amendment said property taxes on homes could never account for more than 45% of total property tax collections. That means the remaining 55% of property taxes must come from non-residential property. This requirement is often called the 45-55 split. Gallagher also dictated the assessment rate for all property. What's the assessment rate? It's the percentage of a property's value that is subject to taxation. You don't pay taxes on the entire value of your home, only a portion of it. For example, if you have a $500,000 home and the assessment rate is 7.2%, you only pay property taxes on $36,000 of the home's value. That assessed value gets multiplied by your locally approved mills, some for the school district, some for the county and city, and some for special districts, like your fire district. Gallagher locks the assessment rate on all non-residential property at 29%. So the rate for homes must fluctuate to maintain the 45-55 ratio. When Gallagher was added to the Constitution, the residential assessment rate was 21%. Throughout the 1980s, the growth in value of residential property outpaced increases in non-residential property values. This meant that the assessment rate on homes statewide had to be lowered. It fell to 18%, then 16%, then 15%. It hit 10.36% in 1995, and then fell to 7.96% in 2003. In 2017, the residential assessment rate dropped to 7.2%. We can see the budget cuts that resulted when the assessment rate dropped from 7.96% to 7.2% in 2017. That's roughly a 10% drop in the rate. This hurt different parts of Colorado differently. In Denver, where home values have grown by more than 10%, Denver homeowners saw increases in property tax bills even though the percentage of their houses they pay taxes on actually fell. As a result, the services funded by property taxes did not have to be cut. However, In the areas of the state where values did not rise by 10%, property taxes fell and local governments collected less tax revenue. Let's look back at our $500,000 house. At an assessment rate of 7.96%, the house had $39,800 in assessed value. If the home value grew by 5%, then assessed value and property tax collections should grow. But because the assessment rate fell to 7.2%, less property tax was collected. This is the exact situation many fire protection districts across the state are dealing with. Bragg and Mountain's property tax dropped by 32%. Uray's dropped by 16%. Lewis Areola fell by 21%. More than a quarter of Colorado's fire protection districts collected less property tax in 2017 than they did last year. Even the fire districts, which have seen growth in taxable property value, are facing budget cuts because much of the growth was reduced by Gallagher. Take a look at Larkspur Fire Protection District in Douglas County, whose property base is almost all homes. Douglas County saw 20% growth in housing values, which should mean bigger budgets for its fire department. However, because of the Gallagher drop and because almost all of Larkspur Fire Protection District's property is residential, the fire district only netted a 2% increase in property taxes between 2016 and 2017. This isn't enough to keep up with increased call volume and population growth. Because of the Gallagher drop, Larkspur postponed hiring essential firefighting personnel. Unlike schools, which get more money from the state budget if their local revenue falls, fire districts don't get help from the state. They are totally dependent upon local property taxes. Unfortunately, this problem is likely to get worse in coming years. Because residential property continues to grow, Gallagher will cause another, even bigger drop in property tax collections in 2020 and beyond. Current estimates suggest a 15% reduction in the assessment rate on homes, hitting 6.1% in 2019. A few fire districts have done the numbers, and they are scary. One district estimated that the revenue lost from the rate reduction would reduce their employee salary budget by a third. Given the 10% drop in 2017 and another 15% drop in 2019, the residential assessment rate will have fallen by nearly 25% in 4 years. At the same time, emergency call volume is up more than 30%. While this might appear to some people to be a welcome tax reduction, it comes at a significant cost. Reduced services like fewer emergency personnel, closed fire stations, and increased emergency response time. This is why fire chiefs from across the state are warning that Gallagher will cause a reduction in paramedics, EMTs, and firefighters. And fewer ambulances and fire engines will mean increases in emergency response time unless Gallagher is reformed. This video was brought to you by the Colorado Fiscal Institute with support from the Colorado State Fire Chiefs.
Director McMorrin, I don't know if you want to jump back to this, but that was the board.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today's list is about one of my favorite states, Colorado. When I decided to leave...
There you go. You want me to take it?
Sure.
Okay. And this is the statement that the board initially released after you all had been discussing what do we need to do moving forward. The taxpayers of the district elect this board. The board works for the taxpayers of the district. And they're entrusted with significant responsibility to maintain an effective fire and EMS response model for the community while doing so in the most fiscally responsible manner. Unlike other elected officials, the mayor in Colorado Springs or city council, this board is singularly focused. They are singularly focused on providing fire and EMS and focusing on that mission, which allows them to truly evaluate the needs of the community and be very judicious with their tax dollars. This board worked very diligently alongside staff over the last 2 years to produce a strategic plan, as well as a capital apparatus replacement plan. That stuff is all publicly available through our website, or you can come see me and we can make copies of it, but it's all out there for the public to view. We are experiencing growth in the district, and the way our revenue streams are allocated, again, here's where it is. The board's going to ask for a mill levy this fall. The measure's been submitted. The board wants you to know that they are accountable to you, and we want to thank you again for joining us tonight. The bottom line is the community can only have the fire protection and EMS service it's willing to pay for. This truly is your department, and it should reflect your values. So, you know, if the board wanted to kick and scream and say, give us more money, ultimately it's still in your hands, okay? Let's talk about where we stack up with our neighbors and some other districts here in the county. First off, the average in the county of all fire districts is 10.045. We currently sit at 9.215 right there. So we're below the average of all districts. We didn't think that was actually comparable. Some of these districts they might cover 2,000 square miles and have 100 homes in them. So we took districts that dynamically were similar to, as far as number of.
What's the highest? That's hard to read.
What's the highest? It's 21.9. That just passed last year. That's Donald Westcott. Second highest is Tri-Lakes Monument at 18.5. That passed last year. So these districts are comparable, again, as far as number of stations, apparatus, call volumes, number of career staff. If you look down there, the average of these districts in yellow is 13.9191. Caveat being, Falcon sits here at 8.6. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they also have a ballot initiative this November, and they're looking to go to 14.6. They're looking to go to 14.6. But that just gives you some idea of where kind of everybody sits and where we sit. Now, I said our mill levy is 9.215. That's our operating mill levy. We also have a bond out that was passed in 2001. That bond expires in 2021. Right now, that bond for 2019 will account for 0.5 of 1 mil. Again, we have 2019, 2020, and 2021, and then that bond will be retired.
That was for Station 1.
Correct.
We don't actually see that money, it passes through and goes to pay off the bonds to build the station.
Yes. So the only thing we collect for operating revenue is this 9.215.
And what does that, I'm ignorant.
Okay.
Mill levies equal,
Dollar-wise?
yeah.
Okay, so that mill levy was 1.7 last year. Is that what we brought in?
Yes.
1.7 million.
For the bond,
No, for our operating budget.
for operating.
Yes. I did have some folks call me recently and say, well, didn't you just pass the mill levy initiative? I said, wow, no, I've only been here since 2014 or 15. The last mill levy initiative was in 2011 here. And some folks said, well, yeah, they passed a mill levy back then, and that was the staff station too. So I went back and I found the ballot language from that election in 2011. And it asked to go up to our current 9.215, but it was not very specific. And correct me if I'm wrong, were any of you on the board at this time when this ballot initiative went through? Okay.
No.
Okay, so this was a previous board. All they listed in here was for the purpose of providing fire protection and emergency rescue services. That was their rationale. It wasn't very specific. It just said, hey, we want a mill levy increase to provide fire and emergency services.
And what was it before this increase, 7?
No, it was,
4.2?
yeah, 4.25.
I think a big part of that previous mill levy increase was because the department hired paid staff instead of relying so much on volunteers. They had done that with a grant that was a multi-year grant, but it phased out how much was provided. And so the mill levy was asked for to make up that difference and keep those paid staff on. Does that sound right, Don?
Okay. The only reason I bring up the previous ballot initiative is because I think the board did a much better job this time in defining why they're asking for you to consider a mill levy increase. So here is the actual ballot language as submitted to the county. Should the Life Forest Fire Rescue Protection District taxes be increased $550,000 in 2019, and by such amount as may be collected annually thereafter by the imposition of an additional mill levy of up to 5.285 mills for a general operating purpose, including but not limited to maintaining timely emergency services and 911 response times, attracting and retaining experienced first responders, and mitigating costly turnover rates, fully staffing Fire Station 2 with an emergency response duty crew, and funding a long-term apparatus replacement schedule to allow for timely replacement of fire apparatus. Further, it goes on to say, and shall the district's total mill levy of up to 14.5 mills be subject to adjustments annually thereafter to offset revenue losses from refunds, abatements, and any changes to the percentage of actual valuation used to determine assessed valuation, so that tax revenues collected are not less than what they would have been collected had such change not occurred.
Excuse me, I have two
Yes,
questions.
ma'am.
Just so I understand, 14.5 mils is $1 million.
No.
Okay, so explain to me what the mills is, because I'm confused.
Okay. Go ahead, Rick, if you want.
I mean, I understand the increase,
I have a further, okay, so,
but I need you to go back to that
Okay.
screen, because I have a question on the original
Yeah,
screen.
how much the mill levy equals in dollars is dependent on what the assessed value of the district is by the county assessor's office. When they go around I think it's every 2 years, they assess what they feel that the homes are valued at. Let's say you have a particular house on a piece of property, they come by and they say, we think this house is worth $500,000. That's your assessed value. Then they take that residential assessment rate at 7.1, multiply that by that, come out with what your taxable value is. I think on the video is like $36,000.
Okay.
Then you take your mill levy rate, which currently is 9.125.
That's not the only tax. You have school districts,
School
you have
districts,
sheriff's
county.
department, you have all kinds of people.
It gets divvied up, that's just come here.
As far as the fire
What this is going to do to my tax.
okay, so here is an example of our district. There's a $300,000 home in our district, and this is as is today. $300,000 home, residential assessment rate of 7.2, which the state legislature sets. The assessed value of that $300,000 home is $21,600. There is our mill levy, 9.215. That is what a $300,000 house pays in taxes to the district.
For fire.
For fire, correct. The one right below
For the
it,
year.
for the year, correct. The one below it is the proposed 6.11 that the legislature has said they're going to go to for 2019. And that shows if everything stayed the same, if the ballot initiative failed and we stayed at 9.215, that same $200 tax bill would become a $168 tax bill. If the mill levy were to pass, that $200 tax bill would be a $265 tax bill.
Assuming the house stays
At $300,000.
However, after the fire, a lot of those properties are now going from $300,000 houses to $500,000 houses just because they're new.
Indeed, somehow.
One of the things that we put into the wording of the ballot measure 2 is you'll notice the wording up to 14.5%. We did that because we are anticipating that residential assessment rate dropping down to 6.11%. If some miracle happens and they find some solution up in Denver that it doesn't drop, it allows us the ability to not go up to 14.5%. We could push it up to 12.5% or whatever it would take to get us where we're supposed to be. We all own property in the district. I don't want to pay more taxes, and I have to either. And that's why instead of just saying put it at 14.5% up to, so we have that flexibility if that residential assessment rate doesn't drop.
Are you picking up responsibility for all of this growth that's taking place on Volmer and Black Forest?
Yes, with some caveats. I'm going to say yes. So Volmer, that's us. That's 100% our district. If you look at that, as far as the city of Colorado Springs goes, those homes that are being developed over there have partnered with metro districts or special water districts, which means the likelihood of the city annexing those is almost nil. It's a different infrastructure, water-wise, utility-wise, and cities typically don't like to annex the infrastructure because that's the costly part. So yes, that Balmer development, that's us.
Now you're talking about William Heights?
I am talking about Sterling Ranch right now.
Sterling.
Sterling Ranch, yes.
Sterling Ranch is Volmer and Black Forest Road, those houses.
Valmer and Black Forest Road, yeah, no, north of there, where Bill's Tool Rental is.
Yes?
There's the gates there.
Where Mark Scheffel's supposed to go through.
Correct, yes. And if you look at that, and I think the number is 5,225 homes at build-out. Now, I mean, at build-out, right? If it was 2008 again, or 2007, and the housing market was great, and we said at build-out, we might think 5 years, and then housing market tanked and everything slowed down. But for those of you that drive Black Forest Road at Cowpoke, you know, in January, there were 25 homes east of that intersection, and there's 300 or 400 homes there now in 1 year.
That's not Sterling Ranch though.
Could we, excuse me, could we recognize people on the floor rather than just throwing out questions and
Absolutely, sir, go ahead. Floor is yours.
First question, in your flyer, you stated that after the bond issue is paid off in 2021, that the tax would increase about $79. What is it now, what will be through to 2021? That's, you know what I'm saying?
Say the question again?
It says that, that your increase in taxes will be about $79 after the bond is paid off in 2021. What is the taxes between now and 2021? In other words,
The dollar amounts that we came up with were based just on the operating mill levy. The bond is a separate amount, but we didn't factor that. That'll drop off.
Next year is 0.5 of 1%.
It's
It's
0.5 of 1 mil.
So if you took the 18,000, that last one, 18,000 times 1/2 of 1 mil, that would be what the bond is costing. Bill, do you know how much that was? I'm gonna call on you.
I don't remember.
But that's how they would calculate.
so my question is, what is added on to the $79? You've thrown out the bill right now. What, you said approximately for $250,000. Are we talking, is it $25, $50?
Taxes go up in the bonds and tire.
Going up
The
$66.
bond- the tax, yeah, the bond mill drops off in 2021.
Right.
And the mill levy stays at whatever it's set at. So either, you know, if the initiative fails, it stays at 9.215.
No, but that's not what the
Where's the
fire.
$79 come from?
I didn't produce the flyer, if I may, sir.
If the bonds are tired, why does my tax go up?
Because the bond is
I think that $79 might have included what
Right here.
it was.
The bond will be paid off in 2020, with the tax payment gone.
I believe it's $9.14.
The resident Black Forest value of Colorado
That's just for the station, that's just that bond.
Yeah, so,
what does it cost between now and 2021?
right, so let's say it passed, okay? It would be that $79 per year on this example of the $250,000 plus whatever the bond payment is for those 2 years. So we can go run that number in the end, but the bond is 0.5 extra mils. If that, does that help?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just, it
So
was,
the next part of that is after the bonds retired, then that 0.5 will go away.
That bond mill levy goes away. And so the bond mill levy fluctuates every year.
Okay.
So we got a bond payment schedule, and I'm just gonna give you, I have it right here. It was a 10-year bond, okay, and over the course of that, we had to pay back $1,725,000 in principal and $288,000 in interest. Now, everybody who was in the district in 2011 when the bond passed has to help pay that bond off, okay? If they were excluded from the district after that date into the city, they don't have to pay our operating mill anymore because they're in the city now, but they still have to pay the bond down. And everybody who's moved into the district since then has to pay that bond down. So for 2018, the bond was 0.83 of 1 mils. And for 2019, it's dropping to 0.5 of 1 mils.
Got it.
Ma'am.
Can we go back a couple of screens when you, with your ballot initiative actually states? Okay, on number 3, fully staffing. What is fully staffing fires? What's there now besides a building?
Okay, there's a building there now, and the board directed staff to start staffing that station. And I'm gonna give you an operational presentation about how we operate.
Well, that part, I know, that part is important, but I just wonder, what does staffing mean? I mean, I know.
The
there's
goal
trucks-
right now is to staff that station with 2 people, 24/7, 365.
Every time I drive by, there's nobody there.
And in August, we staffed that station 77.5% of the time. We had 7 blackout days.
All right, now, they're gonna build all those houses up there, Hodgin and Black Forest Road.
Yes, they are.
Are you gonna come back and want more money for a building like this?
The board has taken into consideration the homes that are going in up there. Absolutely not. I think Station 2 is appropriate as built. If you walk inside that, there are currently 4 or 5 sleeping quarters on that main level. It's set up to house emergency personnel, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
All right, so hypothetical, this thing passes. How many people are gonna be there full time?
2.
Just 2, okay? If, yes.
The board
Hold on.
would certainly like it to be 3.
As of the first year.
There's a real difference in how quick water gets on the fire when there's 2 people versus 3 people. Not to mention EMS, but there's studies that have been done on how quick how quick that water hits that fire. And we would like it to be 3. You know, we would certainly like to man it 24/7. And for people that live up north, that would be a real plus. If we take off, Black Forest will double its size with just the south end project that's there now. If we get a call and we aren't manned Station 2, if we get a call for a heart attack victim and we gotta go to Penrose, Maine or Memorial Central, that's basically an hour and a half of Black Forest without coverage. That's pretty critical to me. I'm getting up there in age, as you can see this, and I'd certainly like somebody to be able to come to my house. I mean,
Okay, you were next, sir.
I forgot what I was gonna say now,
Talking about fire station.
but I'm thinking, this bond issue you got now is supposed to be paid off in 2021.
Correct.
That bond issue was to build this building.
Correct.
And according to, if I read it right, you were gonna lose all that money.
All we'll lose is the money that was required to pay off this building.
And that should, you should not have depended on that for anything else, so you're not losing anything.
That's correct. We're just saying, I think that says that the bond goes away in 2021. Saying that the bond payment leaves the district in
It also
2021.
said in there you need new equipment, et cetera, et cetera. So how many miles do you put on that fire truck a year? Not going to get groceries and just running up down the road.
What I'll tell you is that right now, we're projected to run between 1,200 and 1,300 calls this year. Up from right at 1,000 last year, up from about 900 the year before.
That's minimal, so.
No, that's 100% of our call volume. And if you look at our numbers, and we produce them monthly for the board meeting in the chief's report, we're only running in the 50%, 54% I think for this month is medical.
Oh.
Everything else is fire alarm, wildland fire, traffic accident, structure fire, hazardous incidents. It's all included in that call volume. You were next, sir, and then I'll get to you.
Yeah, I think concerning this 3, some of the confusion is, when they were advertising to pass the bond for Station 2, one of the advertisements says that it includes staffing of Station 2. Okay? When this board came on, I don't know if it was that during the election or right about then, several of us asked a question about staffing too. Now, the answer was, well, since it's all volunteer anyway, everybody has to wait for the volunteers to get there to go someplace. Okay? And we really don't need to staff it. And we went, So now they come back and say, well, we need to staff it. Now, fully staffing it with the EMS, EMT people, too is great, because a fire station ought to be a place of refuge too. If you need help or whatever, in emergencies, someplace they could go, so that's a good thing. But so the question is, when you say fully staffing, it was already advertised it was going to be staffed. And the answer we got, well, it didn't just quite work out that way. We don't have enough money. So we want to make sure that we do this. It's going to be
Absolutely. And I'll respond to a couple of things. First off, the bond issue is only for this facility. Station 2 and the land was purchased through lease purchase, which is like taking out a mortgage. I'm not a big fan of, in government service, financing, right? Just like, the bond, it's a tool that can be utilized by special districts to get something that they need to provide a service, right? But I just read to you, over 10 years, we paid out $288,000 in interest on that bond. Station 2 was done through lease purchase, which is another allowable way to finance things for special districts. And we paid about we saved $38,000 in interest payments because we paid that off 5 years early by being fiscally responsible for the last 3 years. So, when I took over here, and when some of these board members took over here, we looked at the fiscal picture of the district, which was, there's a bond on this, the equipment was lease purchased, it wasn't owned by the district, which means it's just like buying a car. You're going to pay principal and interest every month on that equipment. Station 2 was lease purchased, it wasn't owned by the district. So really, the assets that we owned, not very much, and we're paying a whole lot out in interest. So we were able to go through the budget starting in 2015, and I can tell you that as of this year, this district, minus the bond, is debt-free. We have retired all of your lease purchases 5 years early, including for the fire trucks, for the land, and for the station. Now, why that's a big deal is because if I'm paying out $38,000 in interest and $288 divided by 10 years, that's money that if those things are retired, then you can start to implement the replacement process using cash and not financing, and not using tax dollars to pay interest payments. But I want to commend the board for taking those actions with our budget.
In just a minute, Chief's going to show you an apparatus replacement plan. And this gentleman here said, how long do they last? This is a 15-year replacement plan, which means that we're going to replace that engine once every 15 years. And I was hoping for 10, but the numbers weren't there. You can't make the numbers. And in some years, if it's an engine, which is 500,000 plus, then we aren't going to be able to do an engine out 1 year, so we will buy a chassis and finish it next year. And then in some years where we have an ambulance, or we need ambulances, then we can certainly do one or two. But that cost is roughly $230,000 a year to be able to do that. But in doing that, how much do we save in interest? A lot of money. And it's your money, it's my money, because I live in the district too. So it's all of our money. And I would prefer not to pay somebody interest. I didn't have to. And there might come a time when we have a disaster and we have to borrow money for something, but if we don't have to, I certainly don't want to.
I believe Walt was next, and then I'll be Tina.
That's fine, that's fine.
Walt?
I was just going to comment that you asked how many miles on the vehicles. I think that mileage is probably not a good measure of the life of the vehicle, because so much of it is going, at high speed to an event, and then you're sitting there pumping water or doing whatever it is you're supposed to be doing and operating the thing while it's standing still. And it's hard, very hard on the vehicles, because you're starting from a cold start. Okay, they're inside the garage, so it's not freezing usually. They could be starting from outside somewhere. But you jump in and you're immediately going full speed wherever you need to go. And then you're operating usually at high revs to accomplish the mission. So it's a very high wear, intensive operation all around.
Chief, Let me break in and speak just a minute on the Gallagher amendment again. What the Gallagher amendment says is that 45% comes from residential and 55% comes from commercial. How much commercial do we have here? So already, just in the get-go, we're getting half of what Colorado Springs is getting. The Gallagher amendment doesn't affect big cities because they have a lot of commercial to make up the difference. What it affects is those small districts, and it's because of the 45-55 rule. And so, before we even start calculating the budget, we're already down from what Colorado Springs amendment would be, because we don't have the commercial to make it back up. Does that help anybody? Yes, sir.
So, sir, related to that question, has there been any effort put forth up at Denver in order to reform Gallagher?
I will say, whether you're a fan of Governor Hickenlooper or not, I'm not here to promote him or not. He did ask Congress this year to take care of Gallagher amendment, because not only is that will hurt in special districts, but when property values drop like they did in 2007, 2008, Gallagher amendment does not allow for a tax, a mill levy increase to make up for the amount it dropped. So that even hurts us more. And our Congress walked away without doing it.
When Gallagher first passed, the solution to it was when an adjustment took place, the revenue of the district dropped, the board would simply raise the mill levy to make up for that difference. Then Tabor got passed, and Tabor says that the board can't raise that mill levy unless the voters approve a mill levy increase. And that was where the district, they're both good by themselves, but when you put them together, that's where it creates that problem that we're seeing now.
Who thought we needed Gallagher, and why did it pass? Sorry.
It's back in the 80s.
That's
ancient history.
On number 2, do we have a problem with a large turnover?
Absolutely we do.
You do?
I can show you why. I showed you the comparison of mill levies by district here in the county. And I showed you Tri-Lakes at 18.5, and I showed you Westcott at 21.9. Well, here's what that does, and this is kind of hard to read, all right? But all these different colored lines in here represent the different agencies. So that first one's Cimarron Hills, Falcon, Westcott, Tri-Lakes, Fountain, and then Black Forest is red, okay? This one is a brand new entry-level firefighter right here, okay? And this is the pay scale over here of surrounding agencies. So if you walk in the door here, I can offer you $38,000 a year for your first year. Or you can go over to Tri-Lakes, and they just posted, they are now offering between $53,000 and $58,000 for a first-year firefighter. Now, where we used to lose people, because we were all a little bit closer in pay, was to places like Colorado Springs, and Denver, and Aurora. And it wasn't always money motivated, it was, you know, I'm just starting out in the fire service, I want to go somewhere and run 1 million calls a year. Well, I can't generate 1 million calls in Black Forest, nor would I want to. So that's something I can't fix. So if we're losing people for reasons like that, that's okay. If we're losing people to our neighbors because we can't compete with them, that becomes an issue. It is costly to, and I'd like to talk a little about the operations. We're still considered a combination department, which means we have career staff, we have part-time employees, and we have a limited number of volunteers. And it's not because we haven't advertised, hey, come be volunteers here. It's because the dynamic in the country has changed over the past 20 years, and we're seeing a different type of volunteer. We're not seeing that I bought a house and I care about my community and I want to give back volunteer that has a job that they don't have to work 2 jobs to pay for their house and they have some flexible time. The volunteer today that we see is kind of the 18 to 25. I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get a fire science degree, I'm going to go become a fireman. Well, those people typically, what do they want? If they're going to get a degree, they want a job, they want something that pays money. So what happens is we get them for a year or 2 to build their resume, and then they leave. And when we talk about volunteers, volunteers are not free. Just because someone shows up and says, I'm not getting a paycheck, I'll help you out, okay? To outfit them head to toe with appropriate personal protective equipment, we're looking at $3,000 to $5,000 there. To get them, if they come in and say, I'd love to volunteer, but I don't have the training, and we have to pay for their firefighter 1 class or their EMT class, add another $1,000 on there. We still have to pay workers' comp on them, and death and disability on them. So when you look at it, you add that up, $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000. And then we get them for 1 year, maybe 2, and then they're gone, and then we repeat the process. So it's kind of a never-ending financial process.
We actually have a program where we pay for 3 people a year so that we can get volunteers. We pay for them to get firefighter 1, EMS, and they guarantee to volunteer for us for 2 years. But that keeps our volunteer corps up. But what are we doing? We're training for Colorado Springs. We're training for, and we accept that. I mean, we can't do what those kids want, which is $60,000 a year and a million calls a year. We can't do that. So we accept that fact, and that's part of what we do to make sure that we can cover the station.
Very fair.
You might talk about what the actual staffing numbers are per day when you've got 5 people that you can staff the Northwest Station, and you've got 4 that can't, so.
Chief, if the mill levy, that you're saying our lowest is 38,000, hypothetical the mill levy passes, what's the bottom line, what's the bottom then what we can offer to pay a full-time staff person?
We have not run that. So what I've proposed so far, tomorrow night is our regularly scheduled board meeting, and I'm going to present the kind of operational side, draft 2019 budget to the budget officer, which is the treasurer of the board, Mr. Hinton, and the board will start that discussion for 2019. All I have proposed right now is a 2.9% cost of living adjustment based on the Denver Boulder Greeley Consumer Price Index. And that's not a raise, that's, to me, inflation. To stay on par. So that's not a raise. I think that should the mill levy pass, we would be prudent and we would take those like agencies and we would conduct another pay study and we'd say, here's Tri-Lakes, here's Falcon, here's Westcott. How do we get more in alignment with them? I'm not saying that we could ever match the Tri-Lakes pay scale. They gave their employees, after the mill levy, a 25% across the board pay raise because they were losing people to Colorado Springs and Aurora. So, I mean, they felt the pain too. But that's a public discussion that will start tomorrow night at the board meeting. And just, here's kind of the operational side of the house. Right here, district was established in 1945. Obviously, it's nothing like it was in 1945 here. You used to be able to say that this was a rural district, and it might be a little rural in the middle now, but we are starting to see a suburban district in the south and on the east, and that will continue.
I thought it was 1968 the tax district was formed. Is this different?
This is the kind of the foundation of the entire,
The taxing part
was 68, correct.
68.
Okay, there again, we're a combination department, so we utilize career, part-time, and volunteers. We serve 50 square miles. We're all hazards, so we're not just a fire agency. Our staff is all firefighter trained, EMT or paramedic trained, hazardous material response trained, so we're not just show up when your house is on fire. Ma'am.
Excuse me, Laura Boswell, Vision House Street. My question is, we also have housing that's being built on Old Branch Road, so we're going to be responsible for that too?
Not on the south side. If it's south of Old Ranch and west of Black Forest, that is currently already gone. It's paying the mill, or the bond.
It's still in the bond.
It's still in the bond, but it's not in the district, so no. Okay? And so going north of Old Ranch, that is our district. And again, we talked about, you know, the city will not annex that north of Old Ranch because those are all 2.55, 10-acre lots on wells and septic. The city will not touch that.
They don't have the money to put the infrastructure in.
So right now, located within the boundaries of our 50 square miles, about 10,000 individuals, 5,000 residential and commercial structures. When you look at the build-out plans that we've received, Flying Horse North, which is going in up on Black Forest Road, in between Black Forest and Highway 83, 285 homes there, 5,000 homes in Sterling Ranch at build-out. And then Judy could probably give you more, but I mean, there's 11 homes, 7 homes. I mean, we see development plans daily.
I would like to mention on Sterling, there's a big difference between that and Flying Horse. Flying Horse has a PUD zone that's approved, it's vested, they have responsibilities. Sterling Ranch is a sketch plan, it was approved in 2008, it is not rezoned, it's still all RR5. They put in a couple of final plats that have been approved, which it may be 10%, 12% of
Yeah.
the 5,500 houses.
Which is right
But
there.
there's no commitment on their part to build 5,500 houses.
Correct.
There is a commitment on the part of Flying Horse North to put
Build
in
285.
283.
Yep.
So that's an important difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. And the part that you talked about that is currently ready to go, they were in yesterday actually. And it's 72
Brand
lots,
new.
51, 134, 78.
Right, yeah, they're doing a little pieces, a
Yes.
plat at a time, instead of doing a proper PUD and planning the whole thing the way they should, so that everybody else.
So let's just speak hypothetically then. If at build out, all those were to be built out, that would add 6,042 dwellings, which would add 14,500 more residents to our 10,000. And that's based on the national 2.4 people per household number.
Yeah.
Okay. The bottom line is the district's going to continue to develop and grow. It's going to add more people. It's going to add to the call volume.
The difference in that too is that big project is on the south end of our district. So that's why it's critical to man station 2 as well. Because a lot of our calls are now only south, and we need somebody north, Flying Horse, High Forest Ranch.
So is the district obligated to provide service to everything in the district, no matter what, how much
Absolutely.
density or?
Yep, absolutely we are.
Okay, well, I'm just asking, because that's
Yeah.
a high-density area, and the rest of the district isn't.
Yeah, if it is within the district, we have an obligation to provide service to it. Sir?
Is the present proposed mill rate, is that based on service for the total build out, or is what you need right now?
I would say that that's based on the next 10 years, should Gallagher not.
We're planning for that build out to be done.
So the 14.5% increase
Now, that's not, that
covers
that won't-
everything that we built.
That's correct. The difference would be if Gallagher keeps going down.
With this, are we
There's no-
kind of buying
I don't-
before it's done in?
That's the prediction that don't go today, right? And it's based on the value of the residential property in Denver. It's not the residential property of state, it's the residential property in Denver that triggers Gallagher. So, you have, one reason that the northern part of Colorado Springs is so busy right now is they can get so much more than they can in Denver, they're gonna drive. We hope that 14.5%.
You see what I'm asking though? You're asking for a mill levy increase to pay for something that's going to incur 10 years down the road.
Actually,
Well,
Or is it not?
What we're trying to pay for now is to man station 2 and for our apparatus program, which I think Chief has a slide on. And 15 years for an engine, with Walt's statement right there, that's a long time for an engine.
Well, well, those 6,000 additional homes, will their tax that you're gonna get increase your revenue and budget to pay for what or are we going to show?
You know what?
Are we shouldering the burden for the new homes that are coming in?
No.
That's a great question
That's a
too.
good question.
And there's another issue that we could bring up here that you could all help us with. Okay? So, a long time ago, the state legislature decided that some special districts in the state could impose impact fees on new structures in a district to offset the burden that they create on that district, because you, as an owner in that district, have been paying for things for 30 years, let's say. So you've paid for a station, and you paid for some fire trucks, and then Bob moves in and builds his house. He gets the benefit of that station and the fire truck that you have paid for, correct? All right, well, at some point, that district hits maximum build out, right? So the last guy that builds is the lucky one under that model, right? Because he got the benefit of everything that everybody in that district paid for. Well, fire districts were left out when the legislature implemented an impact fee program under Colorado revised statutes. So 2 years ago, state fire chiefs lobbied the state legislature, found a great House rep up in Elbert County that was willing to sponsor a bill on our behalf. And the state legislature said, yes, we do believe that fire districts should be able to implement an impact fee program. Go ahead.
Does everybody here know what an impact fee is? Basically, it's, we go to the developer and say, okay, you're going to increase our volume by this much. We need a new engine, new ambulance, whatever it may be.
That's approach.
But
Yes.
and it can be for apparatus, it can be for stations, but it cannot be for personnel.
So only capital assets. And what you do is you have to define the project.
5,000 houses.
Okay, yep, we need 3 fire trucks, okay? They're gonna benefit existing residents at a rate of 25%. They're gonna benefit this new development at a rate of 75%. You take number of rooftops, you take the cost of the project, you divide it out, and you say, it costs $385 for every house that's built in that development. That offsets. We thought, great, because this is a way to help maintain the budget. We have a kind of way to maintain apparatus replacement, which frees up the normal tax dollars to just run the operation, right? Pay for the people. The caveat to what the state legislature passed was that the district could come up with the impact fee, but the county commissioners had to approve it for each district. And they had to approve the process that each district followed. So after the bill was passed, this group up here, myself, the fire chiefs in the county, went to our Board of County Commissioners and said, we would like to do this. We had several meetings in front of the Board of County Commissioners, and they finally tabled it indefinitely, which meant that there's no way that any special fire district in the county can implement an impact fee.
So why don't you just say we can't afford to serve them?
Good old Darrell Glenn.
We don't have that option.
It was bad before you got there.
We do not have that
Wayne
option.
Williams wasn't any
And we
better.
can't get into the strong
Wayne
arm
Williams
of,
wasn't any better.
yeah, we'll approve your development if you're willing to pay this. I mean, that's not allowed either. We can't do that, no. So we wanted to do it according to the bill that was passed, but we simply can't.
Has
because-
anybody gotten anything out of the commissioners for an impact fee in any district in this county, or is it just?
Not in this county. No, Elbert County, I think every fire district in Elbert County has now passed an impact fee program, and it was done within 30 days of the governor signing that bill into law.
And this has been 2 years, you said?
Mhm.
So we need to get a hold of our county commissioners.
Absolutely.
Like a fire under their butts.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry I sidebarred there.
No, that's fine.
That's good.
Go back one. So here is the physical district right here in blue. I know there are some folks that are down here in these two little sections. This is Black Forest Road, and that's Palmer coming in. These two sections have been annexed by the city of Colorado Springs. The board has passed a resolution starting an exclusion process for those two sections. Right now, the folks in here are taxed by our fire district, which they were originally in, and by the city of Colorado Springs.
When is that effective?
The board passed a resolution.
No, the annexation.
Oh, it's been annexed now for probably 5 years, 6 years.
Been that long?
Yeah.
So isn't that east of Ulmer and west of Ulmer there, isn't that all city?
It's city up to right here. That's it. Everything up here is ours. But below that line, in section 5 and 6, that has been annexed. It's still in our district right now.
Well, I thought that stuff up there north of Woodman Road was with the city.
Wolf Ranch is.
Right, no, up.
Right. No, this is Woodman Road right here.
All right, that stuff, what's the next one up there?
That's Woodman Hills over here, that says Woodman Hills right there.
There's no road there,
Yeah.
it's just.
No, west of there.
Over here?
No, right there, where Walmart turns, right in there.
Right there?
Yeah, all that blue, what's that blue?
That's all ours.
I thought that was city.
No, the city stops right here.
Is that like cowpoke? Is that?
Yeah,
I mean,
Cowpoke comes in
Just
right over here.
South of Bill's Tool,
Just
south of
south
Bill's Tool
of
Road.
Research.
By Palmer, it's at the Heady Lane, and there's one sign right there. And that's where city stops and
Silver
county
lots,
starts.
anything south.
Pioneer Sand and Gravel is outside the city.
Correct.
Those are those apartments, the
Oh.
blue and the red ones, that's those apartments, that's that section there.
Yeah, that's that section,
Those are
and
the
that is the
apartments.
city. And so that is leaving the district.
Whoop-de-doo.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but with all the new development that's going in, and then with this piece going out, the revenue that we were getting from the city part, we're losing. We're picking up about the same amount for the other, but the big difference is the city's also covering calls down there. We're not running ambulance calls
And
and
the
stuff
city
so
takes
much
over.
in that city
The
part.
city takes care of
So our
it.
services are still gonna go
So
up.
they're not, they don't
We
want to
slowly
build a fire
start to do
station
part.
out there, so they do it to you.
That's right.
Without really an appreciable increase in revenue.
So we operate out of two stations. The nice one you're sitting in and the nice one up at Hodgen and Black Forest.
You're gonna need a third one over by Sterling Ranch,
We have a land dedication from the developer for a third station over there, should we need it.
And where's Sterling Ranch?
north of Pioneer Sand.
Yeah. It's over in here.
Fulmer Road, back where the
Arroyo,
curve is.
is that Arroyo?
all the-
Not that far.
South of Arroyo.
South of the road, yeah.
But we do have a land dedication from that developer,
If you need it.
if we need it. One of the big issues for us in response times into this area down here is going to be connectivity. Now, if you look at what roads they're projecting to eventually run through there, that solves some of our access egress issue. If this thing, though, builds out in 5 years, it's hard to get there from here.
Well, Vargate Stapleton was supposed to be built 3 years ago.
Actually, 1999.
So there's the two stations we
Old
operate
Range
out of.
Road south of Florida, supposed to be 4 lanes in 1999, that never happened either.
Here's the current equipment that we own. So we own 15 fire, EMS, command, and utility vehicles. We maintain 2 primary units by type. I don't want to confuse everybody. So we have 3 pumpers. Okay, we have 1 primary pumper at Station 1, 1 primary pumper at Station 2, and then we maintain a reserve. So typically, if we buy a new engine, we put that new engine into service. The one it replaces goes to the station that runs fewer calls. The one up at that station goes into reserve. And then when we go ahead and purchase a new one, we sell it or we trade it in. So right now we have 2 primary fire engines with an additional new one arriving in March of 19. Since we paid everything off, we paid cash for that with no financing.
Okay.
3 water tenders, 3 brush trucks, 3 ambulances, 2 command vehicles, and 2 utilities. That's just our current employees and staff. Here's the stuff I want
Is
to get
there
into.
a target for how many of all of these things you'd like to have? Like, would you like more fire engines? Would you like more brush trucks? More tenders, more ambulances?
I think as stands, we want to make sure that we have 3 of each type that are all serviceable and functional and ready to go.
At this point?
At this point, yes.
But what about in the future?
It'll be call dependent. If we jump from 54% EMS calls up to 90% EMS calls, then you need to go, oh, we're using our
I
ambulances.
guess what I'm thinking about here is I'm concerned that the greatest part of your land area is most likely to need brush trucks. But the greatest part of the call volume, the service requests, et cetera, are going to be urban oriented, not forest protection oriented. So I'm worried about the short end of the stick here.
And I think right now, as it stands, we have 3 really nice Type 6 brush trucks. That second primary fire engine is actually a Type 3 wildland engine that meets Type 1 fire engine specification. So it's kind of an either or. So it's a primary fire pumper, but it's a heavy wildland vehicle. And I can talk to you about that later. As far as water capacity, I don't want to brag on the awesome staff here, but they do it well. And I know not a whole lot of people are recognizing Insurance Services Organization anymore, ISO, but they used to go out, and they set the standard for evaluating fire departments. And this staff here got us an ISO rating of 4 if you're within 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant, and a hauled water rating of 5. There is no other district in El Paso County that has a hauled water rating of 5. And what that means is, if you don't have fire hydrants, which is the bulk of this district, that means this staff is really good at taking the water tender and the pumper and continually supplying water to match the areas that have hydrants. A 5 is unheard of. I was shocked when I was like, wow, we just got a hauled water rating of 5. So I think capacity-wise,
Is Flying Horse Orange going to have hydrants?
I think they're still talking with Cherokee. I think they'll probably have some Cherokee, and there is already some that runs through there.
Yeah.
That's another sidebar. Right. Let me get to this part. This is our current operation and how we're staffed. So every day, there's an assigned shift of 4 career staff and a single funded part-time position. A position is funded 24/7, 365. So the 4 career staff show up here. If we can get a part-timer in, then we have a staff of 5. The problem is that all of our part-time employees are career firefighters somewhere else. Falcon, Don Westcott, Tri-Lakes. We borrow their expertise because we work with them daily in their career jobs. We know them, we trust them, we don't have to train them. They say, hey, I'd like to volunteer, or I'd like to work part-time with you guys. We put them on the roster, and then when they're not on their career shift, they'll pick up a couple shifts a month here. So how we do this is minimum daily staffing is set at 4. All right, so we always have our 4. If that's all we have, all 4 work out of this station, period. Because this station runs the ambulance and a fire truck. If we have the 5th person, if a part-timer fills their spot, we put 2 people up at station 2, and we put 3 people here. Now that is not optimal. Okay? Again, we run the ambulance out of here. So with 3 people, we put 2 on the ambulance, and when it goes to town with a patient, that leaves 1 person here, which is not safe. We like to work in 2s at a minimum. But if they're going to be gone for 2 hours, Station 2 crew meets with the 1 person, and then we have a single crew of 3.
Do you have extra staffing on red flag days?
We did spend some money this year hiring back staff for red flag days.
So you can do that?
Yes. I have not been told I can't do that to date by the board. They've been very supportive. They get a daily staffing thing that they'll see it and it'll ask for additional staffing on red flag days. But yes, we have hired back on those days.
Whether it's volunteer or part-time, doesn't make any difference.
This is just a graphic representation of what we just talked about. So there's station 1. If it's a structure fire, all 3 of them are going to jump on the fire engine and go to the structure fire from this station. And these 2 are going to bring their engine or their tender. That puts the ambulance out of service here. Now, Falcon, Tri-Lakes, Westcott, I mean, we can all only handle so many calls. And you know, our job is based on the what ifs this occurs. And some days those happen, right? Some days, you know, if we get 3, 4, 5 calls on top of each other, I might have to call Tri-Lakes and say, you need to take the call here. And guess what? When Tri-Lakes gets busy, they say, hey, we need your ambulance to take this call.
You saw the Falcon gentleman back in the back of the room today. They're covering for us while our guys are training tonight. So we cover for each other.
It is very reciprocal here. There's a group of 7 fire agencies that formed a coalition 20 years ago. And so when there's a structure fire, let's say, if the structure fire is right here, all 7 agencies get called at the same time. from the county. And what that does is, this building's on fire, the county sends out Black Forest, Donald Westcott, Falcon, Tri-Lakes, Palmer Lake, Cimarron Hills, sometimes Air Force Academy is on the run card, and everybody heads to the fire simultaneously. The reason that was established was because 20 years ago, each district had one person during the day. So maybe if you got all 7 districts, you got 5 people. So none of our agencies are standalone. We all do rely on our neighbors. But that's our current staffing right there. And that just kind of shows you what we send to any given incident. And again, this is a single incident. So if it's a medical, send the ambulance and the fire truck, traffic accident, ambulance, fire truck, and then structure fire, is with engine, tender, plus automatic and mutual aid. And that's where our neighbors really kick in. Just talks about what our crews do during the day. Does anybody have any questions about kind of the operation?
We actually have a really amazing staff in that a lot of little things that go wrong with engines and equipment tenders, they fix themselves as long as they'll sit in at their cameras and get the big charge. Captain Bell on the back of the room and his guys come to bat and take care of it. So that saves a lot of money.
I have a question about the impact fees. You said, you talked about this district board going to the BOCC meeting. Has there been any effort on the part of like a coalition of fire chiefs in El Paso County to do anything about this?
Absolutely.
Or is it just been
No, it started with the fire chiefs meeting with Lori Seago,
Yeah.
who was the county's, legal counsel. And I think there was probably 15 of us at that meeting. And we had 3 meetings with her, and
Did they give any reasons for this, or just?
Developers were in charge.
Yeah, well, we know that. But we've got to change that.
but yeah, there was a coalition of fire chiefs.
So there-
Yeah, we had a whole working group with Lori Seago prior to it going before the BOCC and prior to the.
Will there be another run at this after November?
I think there should be.
Yeah. You
Um,
might as well try.
You can get a hold of your current county commissioner, and if your county commissioner is not running again and someone else is running in their stead, you should get a hold of that person too. And I know I might have taken the Black Forest hat off, but I know I met with the bulk of the candidates for District 1, one-on-one, and said, here's an issue. Should you be elected, this needs to be back before the BOCC. Because it would help defray cost in the future. I think that's all I have operationally. Board, I don't know if you want to jump back in there or if there's more questions. Sir?
I do have a couple operational. As far as call volume, you mentioned it rising from 900 to 1,013. What percentage typically is medical?
I think for the month of August, it was 54%.
And then what percentage is billable?
Of that, where did she go? You can handle that one.
We only bill if you're actually transported to the hospital.
Sure.
So initial first aid, treat and release, that's part of the taxes that you pay to us. Out of those, we average about 320 transports a year on average, out of around 550, 600 calls, medical. So it's a little less than 50% of our transports.
Who does your billing?
Quad billing, out of
Okay, so
Elizabeth, Colorado.
what's their collection rate?
Actually, our collection rate out here is phenomenal. We have a 58% gross collection rate and about an 89% net. Nationally, it's about 30% gross and maybe 60% net. So whenever I send statistics in, they call me up and say, these must be wrong. And I'm like, nope, you're right. So we actually do very well in those areas of collection.
2 others, if I may. As far as, you mentioned a consortium with other agencies, has there been talk or consideration for mergers and consolidation?
The board has broached that topic several times. I think from a historical perspective, over the last 20 years that I have been involved in this county, my former employer was Tri-Lakes. We did effect a fire authority and then a merger. It took 30 years. It took 20 years before I worked there, and it took 10 years from the time I worked there until two agencies were able to merge. It is talked about daily within the county. And I think you probably will see some mergers in the future, be it form a fire authority or dissolution and inclusion of districts or complete consolidation of districts. I think you will probably see more of that in the future. But yes, it is not a topic that's been lost by any board or any staff.
If you think you had a giant, let's say a giant merger happen,
Mm-hmm.
you think that would make any difference in the fee impact?
Not in the county, I don't think, not until we get a new BOCC
Okay,
involved.
just thought I'd ask.
But, you know, one of the biggest hurdles when you go to create a fire authority is the mill levy and the debt. So why would we, as a board, encumber you as Black Forest taxpayers to merge with Donald Westcott that is in huge debt, has a huge debt structure? And we're at, even if this passes, we're at 14.5 mils. They're at 22, so where do you set the mill levy? So it becomes really a difficult task to provide the same service, at the same time, and merge mill levies together. And then you've got a different board of directors, or in some fire department authorities, you might have, each entity will have their own board of directors, and then you have a board of directors for the fire authority. It's just a real nightmare to merge.
There's another fire district that's similar to ours, with a similar budget, that's in huge financial problems because they have so much debt that they're trying to pay off. Our board, along with our chiefs, have worked very hard to be fiscally conservative and get rid of all of our debt. And now, other than that bond issue, we don't have any debt. That allows us to be a little bit more flexible in our spending and get more bang for our buck here. And other districts that aren't trying as hard as we are, if we merge with them, well, then what are we going to get? Are we going to end up getting stuck with their debt, with different management? You know, I kind of like to think that we're paying better attention to our district, which is a little bit more sparsely populated than some of our neighbors. And I'd get concerned if we merge with a bigger group that we might get a little bit more ignored out here. You know, this board's worked really hard to take care of our residents and our taxpayers here and do the best we can, and I kind of like to keep it that way.
And I would absolutely agree with the board, except I am the quintessential optimist, and I would like to think that before my career is over, and hopefully that's a long time from now, and you guys won't be the board anymore, that yes, you will see a larger fire entity in the county. Ma'am.
Before this, I don't know your name, but before you spoke, I am applauding the board for being fiscally responsible so that we are in debt, because that's the way it should be. And I want to applaud you for whatever it took to get to that point, for us to be able now to, like you said, to be able to use our monies, hopefully it passes, to use our monies really wisely for really what we truly need, not to pay the banks, but to get people, get more staff and better equipment. So I applaud the board for however long it took you guys to get to this point. Thank you, as part of the taxpayer. Thank you.
Sir, if I may, what's Plan B?
That's a very good question, buddy.
Plan B, you know, and I'm going to, I'll present my version of the budget, which is based on staff's input. It's pretty conservative for next year. Again, I mean, the only things that we increased in it were based on inflation, like fuel. We obviously we track that all year long, and we go, yep, we can't do it for this next year. Got to add 5% to the fuel budget. Things I don't have control over. Plan B will be to continue to provide the service we can within
What we got.
what we got.
You know, and even if the mill levy passes, we won't see that money until 2020 because taxes are paid in arrears. Right? So next year, we're on whatever we can get right now.
I remember that barbecue had donation time.
Yeah.
We did real well with the food at our thing this year.
We broke even, yeah.
Well, I want to go on, we've used your services twice, Black Forest Fire and then emergency services at our house. I am amazed at everything that gets done. And you've got my support to do what we have to do to make sure you can do your job.
Thank you.
You know, the key is training. You know,
Basically, I really would like to see-
We want the best equipment that we can send to your house. But we also want the best trained staff that we can
I
have.
think I'd like to see more people.
And we'd like to pay our staff so we don't lose them. I mean, Captain Bell back there trains and works hard as he can to keep our people here and keep them trained, and does an amazing job. Amazing job.
Well, I applaud you all.
Yes, absolutely.
Judy?
What's the information that I had before I came to this meeting? I had a lot of qualms about this whole thing, okay? I think that what you presented tonight has been excellent, but you've got to find a better way to tell the rest of the community about it, because I suddenly realized, I called the station this morning and said, oh my God, was that meeting last night? You know, because I've been very busy. And they said, no, it's tonight. So I contacted Chuck Litterdale to ask him to send it out on the BF list and the Friends of Black Preservation Plan list. And we've only still got a handful of people.
Yeah, this gentleman's put
We
it on.
really miss your
Well, I'm trying really hard to get moved into my new house so I can start the electronic one. I just don't have time. I'm spending much.
No, I know.
Come on, Judy, get crap.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm not
But
blaming
I'm
you. You
just
missed the
saying, I
paper.
think that a little bit of investment in some mailers
Well,
would
one
be
thing's
good.
we've
I mean,
got,
I just sent
yeah,
it
we got some
out.
of one mailer out, but
Where did
seriously,
you send it? I never got it.
I got one.
Should have.
That's, I'm renting.
Oh.
Yes,
should have gone out to register in the forest.
Yes, I'm just right over here on Black Forest Road next to the Stations of the Cross and Our Lady of the Pines.
Yeah, we
I've been
sent out,
around
what,
for 5 years.
5,000 of those?
And so if you send it to my home address, I do get it.
One of the hurdles that we have is once we actually file the ballot language with the county on the 28th,
Our hands are tied.
yeah, we cannot spend any more taxpayer dollars in support.
We can't even tell you tonight.
Well, then
That's
you
why
need
it's
to find a
fact-finding.
citizen group, that's friends of the ballot measure, to get out there and get cracking with this, because people don't know what's going on.
We don't.
You know, the only reason I called this morning was just because I drive by your sign every day from there and there, you know, and I've been recently taking Black Forest Road more often because Herrings and Burgess is such a terrible intersection, it's such a short sight distance, I'm trying not to get killed. And, you know, I forgot about this almost, and I didn't know about the other one.
I didn't know about the other one.
You know, so you gotta find a way. I'm not telling you what to do, but I think you need to let people know.
We just revamped our website.
Right.
Yeah, but people have to be told to look at it.
Yes.
That's not
And-
something
and
that's
a
not
lot of
like
people, if
we
you're on
were
Face-
doing hard on our
You know,
website.
if you're on
and people
Facebook,
were
we're on
looking at it.
Facebook, we're on Twitter.
It was in the Falcon Herald.
Yeah, but that comes
So what
out.
is the website?
Where is the
Well,
website?
what is the website? I have no idea.
www.bffire.org.
The Bethlehem Herald's been doing a great job of picking up the Black Horse News, but you have to realize they publish the first of each month. They have a deadline the 15th of the month before, so there's a huge lag. They can't keep up. And if I ever could get the time to get into my house and get my DSL hooked up and all that, I want to have a rapid turnaround website where I can post stuff just like this from my own computer and then put out a publication electronically subscribed maybe twice a month with more information than the website will have. That's a lot faster than Falcon Herald can do.
Well, they knew about it when they put the paper out at the beginning of this month, so
Right.
it was in there.
But we have no idea when people pick that paper up. Okay, so I just think there needs to be some other way, or partner with some other groups that can sign on as supporters of this. you know, I don't know, but I just think people don't know. And I think that's a big problem.
I don't have an answer to this, but I will give you my first impression when I read the flyer, that you said we're asking for a small increase, but then you look at the figures, it's a 55% increase in mill rate. And I don't have an answer, but I think you need to look at some, and you can't spend any more money because you're on the advertising. Somehow you need to get the information out.
Well, some of it was.
You see what I'm saying?
If you took-
That was my first
If you took
impression.
it
Wow.
dollar for dollar, it was 39% of whatever it was. But what we've already lost is 24%.
You see, you don't explain that very well to the people.
Sorry.
All they see is small increase, wow, 55%.
Right, right.
Most, I'd say 99.9% of taxpayers don't understand how the residential assessment rate factors into it. They just see the mill levy going up and down, they don't see this part.
Chief Kevin, you want to say something?
Have we talked about or have thought about putting together a political action committee to start?
I didn't hear that.
Have we thought about a political action committee?
You can start one, we can't.
Yeah, I mean, the board
No,
cannot.
we're not allowed.
Number of public meetings, that we can just have one.
No, we can have as many
Have them at the
public
community
meetings to
hall.
talk
Any
about.
public meetings,
Have a
factual,
barbecue, or whatever.
we can have as many factual meetings as we want.
I really don't want to flip hamburgers again. Twice
But
more.
you could have a meeting entitled, "There's a hot time in Old Town tonight," okay? And get people out, you know, something
You know,
like
if
that.
there's a community group or something that's meeting somewhere, a church or the community club or something, and they want a board member, somebody to show up and answer questions, you know, we can do that. We can't suggest whether to go for or against it, but we can show up and
Yeah,
answer
just for
questions.
information.
We went to,
Information is good.
Lauren and I went to High Forest Ranch to their picnic and then to their men's club meeting up there. And I talked to them. They actually wanted us to train some of their people on CPR. And I said, well, Assistant Chief Kabitsky, who does that? And that's no charge to you. And so when we went to the men's club, I said, you know, Station 2 is real critical for you, because you're right beside it. And we'll be happy to train some of your people, but would you like Station 2 staff? And so we did that, but that was prior to this being announced or sent to the county. And once we give the ballot language, then we can't say vote for it or against it. All we can say is.
No, but you
this
can
is fact.
educate people of where to go look for the information. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, we can do that.
And people don't, they just don't have any idea this has even happened.
Well, all of our emails are on our website, so somebody email me with suggestions, and I'll be happy to look at them, and what to do, and
What's
how
your
to.
email?
Hold on one second.
Jack.hinton, Hinton, @bffire.org.
Or you can email it to me and I can send it to every board member. And I know you have my email.
I just have a board question. How long you guys serve? What's your term?
I'm sorry, ma'am?
What's your term for being on the
Four-year
board?
terms.
4-year term.
Yeah, Jack and I have two more years. Gator, yeah, Mr. Hoffpower and our board chairman, PJ Langmite, just got reelected to 4 more years.
I'd like to say one thing in here. I'm retired from Coral Springs Fire Department, and I've been out here since '90s. Anyway, since in 5 years, I've seen this department grow as leaps and bounds from the boards and the people and the personnel. The entities that we have available now is unbelievable from what it was 5 years ago. So whenever we're saying we're trying to help everything, we are doing everything we can to help our citizens. But if you look in, if you get on our website, we'll post letters, but there's also in this Falcon Herald, like Judy and everybody says, there's a Black Forest news section, and there's a section, we've had a series of 3. Chief had an interview, I wrote a letter to the editor, and where we've been in 5 years. So if you guys want to get an idea what has happened in 5 years, besides just all this, read those bills, and then our chairman just wrote one. out of this month. So you get an idea, and those are all gonna go on our website, so to see where we're going at and what we're trying to do for you. And I'm grateful for everybody here, because most of us have lost our homes too, or some part of it, and been through all that. So we got a great chief, we got good staff, the training is unbelievable, and certifications are unbelievable. We're working on new apparatus, we're doing everything we can in the budget. We paid off enormous amount of debt, unbelievable. I wish my wife could do it, but anyways, don't say that. But yeah, that's where we're at, and if you'd like to catch up on some of that, get on the website. Chief Rubisky will have all that by next month or so.
Our website's kind of
Yeah, we have
Your
it.
website needs
work
some
in
work.
progress.
It's new.
Our calendar's not working right now, and
It's
nobody can figure
new.
out why.
Going through
So, because that would be a good place to
Maybe
get.
you got a professional web person doing this?
Yes.
Yep.
It's just new in the last less than 30 days.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So it's dramatic change.
And it's the internet, things screw up. No explanation.
Well, the internet speeds in black market.
Well, people use the internet, it's just that a lot of people never have it.
Oh, the website.
Yeah.
Any more questions from the audience?
Is the information you presented tonight going to be hung on the website as well?
Yes, we can put both of these presentations on the
Okay,
website.
and so I personally thought the video very, very informative about how all that works. I mean, we're discussing a lot of how mills and tax and all that other stuff works. So it's good life lesson for I think people, younger people coming into the community.
We can absolutely post that Gallagher video.
And people really don't understand Gallagher Amendment at all.
It's eye-opening.
The Gallagher Amendment's based on Denver, not on us, not on Grand Junction, not on Pueblo.
But your impact fee is based on El Paso County, and something has to be done about that.
Correct. I would like to recognize the distinguished gentleman in the blue shirt now. Sir?
What needs to happen is that the people living in the suburbs off of Beaumont, all those people in those houses squished together, what needs to happen is that they can know about the Mill Levy ballot measures, that they can vote on it, and we can get that Mill Levy increase.
Again, I mean, that is, how do you get the vote out? You know?
Do they even know they're in our district?
Yes, because I spent an hour on the phone today with just one resident down there. Yeah, I probably
I didn't know they
feel,
were a district. I
Oh,
thought they
yeah.
were Colorado Springs.
I thought they were Colorado Springs.
so what occurred was that
That first little step.
that area down there was historically in the Black Forest District, and it
Yeah.
still is in the Black Forest District. Under state statute, municipalities, so cities, can annex property
Right.
that is unincorporated as long as it shares a 1/6 contiguous border with that property. So as the city annexed a parcel, now it touches another parcel. If that parcel is unincorporated, they say we're gonna annex this parcel. And what happened was, that was owned by developers, not individuals, right? So the city met with 3 or 4 developers and said, we wanna annex these parcels into the city. So, the city can do that, even though it's in our district. But it remains in our district, under state law, until our board decides to exclude it, and the city agrees to that exclusion and decides to accept the outcome of that, and then both governing bodies meet to form a plan on who's gonna respond. You know, do we have to offer mutual aid? Do we have to build a station there? So there has to be an exit plan that both parties agree to, and then that has to be certified by a judge, and at that date, the exclusion becomes effective. It's just a long process.
Annexation can also happen with the developers requesting it and the city agreeing,
Correct.
as long as there's continuity.
The apartments themselves
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like-
are not in, they're in the city, right?
They're in the city.
So to answer this young man's question, do those people, when the ballot comes out, do those people down there off of Ulmer, do they know that they're in our fire district so that they can vote for us, or do they think they're Colorado Springs and they won't vote?
Can I say something? 2 years ago, when I was elected, I said 10,400 voters in Black Forest, give or take. I was the #1 vote, there were 451. That's a sad state of affairs, ladies and gentlemen.
It is.
or against it, I can't say which one to do. But it's sad when there's only 451 people out of 10,000 votes.
I think
Kind of
it's a
indicative of this
question.
meeting
Those
tonight,
people-
I'm sorry, sir?
kind of indicative of this meeting tonight.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
It appears.
And, you know, there's 25% of the people that aren't gonna do anything. They don't want us to bother them, they don't wanna be told to mitigate.
But
they
what
don't
about
wanna be
the
told
answer to
anything.
his question? Do the people that are paying on the bond vote?
If they are just paying on the bond,
They
no,
They don't
pay.
vote.
they don't vote. If they are paying the operational mill, they vote.
What do those people pay down there? Are they gonna be able to vote for this mill levy increase?
Some of that area is and some is not.
And how do they know?
Well, they'll get the ballot.
They'll get their blue book and they'll get their ballot, it's on their ballot. I mean, and in order to get that word out, right? Yeah, I mean, if you live just east of here, you're gonna have a completely different ballot than if you live here.
There's probably 100 different kinds of ballots going out all over the county because of overlapping water districts, fire districts, cities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It is.
But I mean, to get the word out, you
You
know,
know,
yeah, tell 5 people you know, and tell them to tell 5 people.
Email your friends.
I mean, it is. It's hard to get people motivated and hard to get the word out there.
Maybe the Saddle Club could hold a meeting and all those folks could come. It's right now in their neighborhood. They have nothing else like churches or
You
schools.
know, our board meetings are open to the public.
Yeah, but they're not gonna come over.
Right. These two people sitting right here know everything about this board because they come every month. If you want to know about your board, young man, come visit us tomorrow night or any third Wednesday of the month. And you'll see us, you'll see us in action. It's not very fun. It'll be something, it'll be more something to go home and laugh about than it's
Well, tomorrow night, we're talking about the budget, so it's looking at budget numbers.
Oh, goody.
Well, I thank you guys for having this meeting,
Thank you.
and the flyer. I mean, I understood it.
Well, it's your fire district. and
Right.
We're just residents who volunteer to represent you and try and handle it for you. But long and short of it is, you know, we don't know the district you do, and
We all of
we
them.
can't run it fairly if we don't tell you what we're doing.
Is the flyer available anywhere else other than if you didn't get it by mail?
I believe you can
I've
pick
got
up a
about-
copy
I've got
that's
about-
laying up front.
I've got
I don't
about-
think we can distribute it because of that last statement that was on it, but,
I deleted the last sentence off mine.
okay.
And how many do you want?
At least one.
Oh, I can give you 50.
Hey,
Is it
I
on the
believe they-
website?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
yes,
Okay, never mind.
It's a PDF, so you can.
This is irrelevant to this, but I don't know how many know this, but the apartments down there are built, 25% of the apartments are dedicated to low-income housing. They're subsidized by the government,
Yeah, the county helped build.
and you're paying for that. So you ought to be glad you're not voting, because if they're low-income housing, they're not gonna vote for anything.
No, they're not gonna vote, no.
That's pretty sensitive.
I'd like to thank everyone again, and if you have questions, I'm willing to stay after. If you'd like my contact information, I'll gladly give that to you when the meeting's done. Thank you for attending.